Italy have now played 100 games of Six Nations Rugby. And if you're not quite sure what to do with this information, congratulations, you now know how every Italian player apparently felt when they received the ball on Saturday. Their empty, exasperated attack, struggling to break down a French team that defends with the intelligence and passion of a trowel. Despite controlling virtually the entire game, Italy managed to make it 5 more losses on the bounce since I last talked about them. So, how do Italy look now? And can France... Actually, I'm not going to bother posing a question about France. It's pointless even arguing about them at this point. At this point, France is just France. Just let's get on with it. Sergio Parisse is probably one of the best rugby players of all time, and nobody could tell you that more proudly than Parisse himself. Whilst in recent years there's been something incredibly fitting about the fact his first name is an anagram of Sir Ego, on Super Saturday he conducted himself with a humble, workmanlike grit, once again willing to accept the inevitable, but doing his best to prevent it. Parisse was magnificent on Saturday, in a performance that just about summed up his career. Man of the match, in a bold losing cause, a game that Italy could have won if only they had a few more Parisses. And it's worth also checking on his opposite captain quickly, because last week it seemed like he was ready to give up and join the refereeing team instead.
Yeah, can we help?
Do you understand? Huh?
Can we help?
You can help.
However, this week I think Garrido did actually give up, feigning injury at 16 minutes, hoping if he left the stadium early, he could maybe beat the traffic and get a chance to see the Colosseum before he had to leave Rome. Seriously, looking into Garrido's eyes before the game, I question whether it's a good idea to take him to Japan at all, for fear he might be too tempted to take a long walk in a particular forest. Garrido departed just as Anton Dupont crossed for this try, probably googling Spa's Dance of Rome just as the conversion was being taken. A loose kick by Italy gives 70s fashion icon Maxime Maydar the chance to counterattack, picking off 2 defenders and popping the pass to Penaud. After an initial burst, Penaud looks to see Dupont in support. Most players would then draw the man and throw the pass, but Penaud is an excellent support runner himself and can tell from the off his 9 support line is off. Dupont's already being lined up by very Italian fullback Big Jaden Hayward, and the 10-metre pass would give Big Jaden Hayward the chance to snuff out the attack. So Penaud does something brilliant. He corrects Dupont's mistake for him. He cuts inside, making the distance between them as short as possible, and making Dupont's support line now perfect. No defender is able to get to him. He's close to the attack, but away from the defence. And he makes it look, even if just for a second, like France know what they're doing. However, of the 12 tries France have scored in these Six Nations, 2 of them have come from set piece, products of just picking men big enough to qualify for their own postcodes. However, 8 of them have come, like this one, from breakaways, tries created out of nothing, a score made from pure talent. This has made France fun to watch, but it also highlights a huge problem. Only 2 of their tries have come from sustained pressure, from working for your score. France has no plan to break sides down, instead just reliant on individual talent. It's not that they're badly coached, it's like they basically aren't coached at all. Outside of just allowing players to pull random droplets of flair, it's very hard to identify a recognisable pattern over the 5 games this year. I know most of my time talking about France this year has just been making jokes about baguettes, but genuinely, if they're not going to bother designing a style of play, I'm not going to bother analysing it. So here, in lieu of actual analysis, it's just 26 seconds of me making vaguely French noises that will probably provide as much insight of the game as anyone could possibly give you, Brunel included.
Les flancs, les French toast, les French fries, the panis, frosties, bazans the Français.
An inability to break opposition ties down is not a uniquely French problem, as Italy were about as clinical as a surgery run by Johan Uge, the only try coming from an outrageous dummy by Tito Tibaldi. Debutant Marco Zanin could have scored in the first half, but for a run of Toby Flood's old enemy, the post, and then could have scored in the second half, but for a brilliant tackle by Penaud. These are small margins, but that's Test rugby. It's a fantastic kick, and Italy are very unlucky, but Zanin has to track that ball's headed for the post. It's a great tackle, but Zanin has to secure the ball before he dives, or better yet, just draw Penaud and put his support away in the corner. However, the real problem for Italy is far smaller, it's their phase play. There's something triply nostalgic about watching Italy. Though apparently no one's told Clive Woodward, rugby evolves and changes constantly. You might not always notice, but the way teams play now is subtly extremely different from the way they played at the last World Cup. Never mind further back, and one of the biggest changes, the one I want to focus on now, is the way teams use their forwards. Going back a few years, if you're going to use a forward carry to generate quick ball and create momentum, you'd place one forward to carry, near the ruck and 2 behind to support so they can clear out quickly and move on to the next phase. It's clean, it's simple, it's a safe way of retaining ball and winning inches. However, this was extremely easy to defend and also led to a breakdown evolution whereby you let the carrier slip through first, further from their support so you could get over the ball quickly, something exploited by a breed of broad-shouldered 7s such as Richie McCaw and Sam Warburton. However, more recently, phase plays evolved to look more like this. Forwards tend not to target the fringe of the ruck anymore, but rather the weakest point of the defensive line, the gaps, and line up differently. Instead of just tucking in behind the support, they stand in a kind of diamond, meaning any one of the 3 or 4 could get the ball, and even when the pass has gone to one of them, they're still in position to receive a pop pass or a tip-on ball in an effort to confuse the defence, win extra inches, all whilst having a couple of mates nearby to ensure the clear-out is clean, just as in the old structure. This first started to appear before the last World Cup, but since 2016 it's become adopted by just about every major test nation. There have since been exceptions and further evolutions, but I'll go into them some other time because that's not the point. The point is, Italy don't do this. Italy play old school rugby, and not in the pre-defence coaches Gareth Edwards, Grant Fox, where your granddad cited as a reason for voting leave. They play old school rugby like your granddad, and not even in his prime. They play like him now. Seriously, look at their handling and tell me that isn't arthritis setting in. This structure makes Italy extremely predictable and easy to handle. They struggle to gain momentum because the means of gaining momentum has ironically moved too far forward and left them behind. I can only speculate about why this is the case. Conor O'Shea is a smart, innovative, intelligent coach, and it seems to me that he's trying to devise his own twist on the system rather than just following the version everyone else is doing. There's elements of it in there, but they don't quite follow properly and it doesn't quite work properly. I can't say for certain, and I will openly admit I've analysed Italy far less closely than the other 5 teams in the Championship, so I'm 100% sure I'm missing things from their game that may be very smart and may be key in the fact their attacking game has picked up and improved this season. However, from what I can spot, it feels to me like Italy are playing like a team from 2013, which perhaps explains why they've only won 1 game since then. Italy had one other hang-up from the previous World Cup cycle, an obsession with tries. They're the quickest means of accumulating points, sure, but that's because they're the hardest. Time after time, Italy turned down the shot at goal in order to chase 7, rather than just taking the free and focus on getting down into the opposition territory to nab 3 more, which shouldn't have been too difficult, with France's backfield still being a shambles. Wales finished first and Italy finished 6th, but the 2 teams scored the same number of tries, and Italy could do well to remember that going into the World Cup. The point isn't tries. The point is points. Italy are so frustrating to watch because there's so much potential there. Players like Tommaso Allen, Bram Stein, Eduardo Padovani and Federico Caruso all had fantastic tournaments. And even the players who have less obviously shone still have something about them. Angelo Esposito had a hard time after tackling a shower curtain against England, but he's one of the hardest working wingers in the Championship, and a player I've always thought is vastly, if understandably, underrated because he has a handful of very obvious flaws. As I touched on before the Six Nations, there's a lot beneath the national team going right for Italy right now. But unless they can start to get with the times and deliver on their potential, those next 100 games post Parisse may not be that much fun at all. Thank you for watching that. Thank you for hopefully enjoying that, and thank you for watching anyway if you didn't enjoy it. I appreciate that almost even more if you thought that was a really shit video but watching right through to the end. Thank you. I realise that was a game most of you are probably least interested in, but I wanted to touch on Italy a bit because I haven't really looked at them over the course of the Six Nations. I've looked at the other 5 plenty, but not really Italy so much. So I wanted to just cover them a bit and see what they've been up to over the Championship. And you know, you've just seen that, so you don't need me to explain the video, just watch to you. I have got the Wales-Ireland coming up. I have got how Wales won the Grand Slam. That is coming up reasonably soon. That should be in the next few days, hopefully. So you can stop asking me when it's coming out. Yeah, I'm working hard on it. I'm trying to get it, to be of a high standard as I like to do. So that's coming. Additionally, beyond that, I'm going to be going back to, once I've got past the Six Nations stuff, because this is the penultimate video of the Six Nations coverage. I'm going to be going back to the series on every team in the World Cup. So I've got a Tier 2 nation lined up for very soon. And then beyond that, I want to look as well at Ireland, whether they're still contenders after the Six Nations they've had. I want to look into sort of what's gone on with them over the last month or so. And then beyond that, all the other teams that are in the World Cup as we're heading into. Obviously, that World Cup sort of hype, which is already building, is about to really hit fever pitch, if you can call it that. So that's all coming up. If you want to stick around on the channel, feel free. If you don't, entirely up to you. I'm not going to think any less of you. In fact, it's the same. I think more of you for watching through the end and thinking, nah, this is shit, I don't want to watch any more of these. But if you just stick around, I'll see if there was Ireland one in a few days' time. Until then, I don't know why I always do it until then. It's the same thing. have a nice time, enjoy your day, and I'll go back to editing this blighter over here.